and now we are seeing, people are saying, oh, but the communists destroyed the Chinese tradition and all that. No. Chinese tradition is coming back. There's a renaissance of Chinese culture right now, given the last 40 years of economic development. Now people are bringing back the Chinese culture and they're exporting it to the other part of the world. Now there's like Chinese made anime, there's Chinese made dramas, Chinese made products. There's Chinese made TikTok, right? That's a part of the
which is nowadays is the most famous social video network. Is the highest. I was seeing the other day that TikTok has beat YouTube in the video time watching. And I mean, TikTok, most of the time you have 30-second stuff. And YouTube, you can have 1-2 hour chat like ours, for example. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. Well, with 1.4 billion people watching 30 seconds a day, that's not very hard to get.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, one of the reason TikTok algorithm is so good is because they train their AI on 1 billion people. They have a large sample to train. And this is why United States is very afraid of AI development in China. That's why they're applying the semiconductor sanction on China right now. And they're banning NVIDIA export to China because they don't want China to get ahead in AI because they think, oh my God, China has this natural advantage because they have a large population. We're going to cripple them. We're going to take the Tanya-Harden approach to competition. We're going to try to kneecap them. And it's not working. It's not working right now because China
comes out with 7 nanometers.
Yeah, it's too late.
Exactly.
It's too late.
This is not even a new thing. I don't know, almost 10 years, no, maybe 7 years ago, 6 years ago, there was the ban of Huawei in the United States. Yeah. And that was a huge problem here in Europe. I used to work with research development, and all the research labs, I mean, everything, all the clouds and data centers and everything here were using Huawei switches and stuff. So from one day to another, all the data centers had to buy new ones because even keeping the ones that they already had was problematic because of the sanctions. They could not get service or parts. So you could not maintain the thing working. And then they had to change for Cisco and stuff like that were worse.
And the official reason they say they had to ban Huawei is because they say China, it's national security because China, because what's really happening is United States is listening to everybody. And that, they're listening even tap into Angela Merkel's phone. And because one of the reasons they want to ban Huawei is because Huawei is not going to give a backdoor to the CIA, right? I mean, they're not going to give a backdoor to NSA or CIA. So they're like, no, this is out of our control. We can't have that. We need to be tap into it, listen to everyone.
Sure, of course.
And so and this is the real. And right now, I'm in Indonesia. I'm like the network I'm talking to you on was built on Huawei. The Indonesian 4G network was built by Huawei. Yeah.
And now we have
another thing
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. We took stuck. We took stuck here.
One of the things that another change that China brought to the rest of the world is it made the smartphone cheaper and affordable. Like in Indonesia is still a developing country, but everybody here have a smartphone because they can afford Chinese-made smartphone nowadays.
Of course.
And that's a revolution too.
And they are good. Mm-hmm. That's the more important. They are very good. Here in Brazil, we had this culture, this idea that stuff that comes from China is poor quality stuff. Yeah, and it's something for the past. It's not this monster. China.
Wait. Okay.
Okay. China became this huge industrial monster now, capable of making everything with with a lot of quality, and the West is complaining about it, trying to cripple China. But the West created this monster. The West
exactly, and if you think about it, all the if you think about it, even all the Western products, Apple. The Apple phones are made in China.
Sometimes I think you said very well said. Of course, China fell because his own success. I believe it happened with the West now.
Yes.
It's happening with the West now.
Yes.
The West create this idea, the supremacy idea, this idea they are superior. Elon Musk was saying another day, China will never be capable of replicate our technology. They believe it. Yes, they believe it. They believe it. And they put all their factories in China. They will not able to copy our technology. They are doing it better now.
Cheaper, better, and much more, because BYD just a couple of weeks ago became the biggest electric vehicle manufacturer in the world and seller. This culture in Brazil, I mean, if you go back 15, maybe 20 years, we have these, street markets, illegal street markets, let's call it like this. We call it camelo. Where people just, open something on the floor and sell stuff. And back 15, 20 years, the Chinese products that were arriving, they were, for example, there was a smartphone called iClone. There was the sound systems called Skinny, which was Sony with the Q, stuff like that. So at that moment, it became it became stereotypized that Chinese products is this, crappy rip-off, bootleg stuff.
Yeah.
And then if you go forward 20 years, you get Xiaomi, for example. I'm sorry, it's better than an iPhone.
Oh yeah,
I have a Xiaomi phone right here.
I have an Oppo. My wife just got herself a Oppo, which by the way is Indian. My wife just got recently a Xiaomi, and it was already like a 1-year-old model. And it's amazing that the battery goes for almost 2 days.
They're good.
And the full recharge is 15 minutes. This turbo recharge is 15 minutes. And I was like, wow. While my her sister that has an iPhone have to go around holding the charger in her hand because, you never know. Every 30 minutes, you have to recharge a little bit the phone.
Oh, yeah. I was
an iPhone user for the longest time. I switched to Xiaomi because like the battery was terrible. The battery life was terrible, and it's just Xiaomi just so much better.
Oh yeah.
Plus the price is ridiculous.
Oh yeah. It seems to me when we were talking about the foreigner pressures in China, maybe I am wrong. Maybe it's the way we see it here. But the Japan, they were very straight with the foreigners. In one moment of their history, they said, no, the foreigners are taking over. We don't want this foreigners devils here, and they outcasted them. They expelled the foreigners from Japan. Was the foreigner presence in Japan was prohibited. They expelled them. Maybe because they felt their presence there was corrupting. They were infiltrating their culture and all stuff. and China didn't do it in the same time, and then maybe it was the great difference why Japan was independent and took over his own destiny in the next 200 years, and China was not able. Maybe in this point, you said you mentioned the Boxer revolution, the Boxer uprising, right? It was not the Boxer uprising the first try of a foreign agent law in China? You know what I mean? Because they were so sick of the foreign influence, they revolt, right? Nowadays, we see a lot of countries talking about the foreign agent laws to protect the country from foreign influence. Was not there on that time a proto?
A type of FARA.
Yes, a type of a proto FARA. The Boxer Revolution, the Boxer Revolt.
Yeah, I think the difference is kind of the balance of power, right? I mean, because in the late 19th century, the foreign power, when it comes to China, they could do whatever they wanted. The Chinese cannot say no. When Chinese try to say no, the foreigners will just send another gunship and start bombarding your coastal towns. So this is why sovereignty is important. One of the biggest complaint of, say, U.S. about China business practice is the Chinese. Right now, China is welcoming foreign business to come to China, to do business in China, to invest in China. But there's a requirement. The requirement is if you come to China, you can't come to China and have a fully owned business in China, like Tesla. Tesla has a factory, they produce their Teslas in China, but there's a requirement. The requirement is you need to do technology transfer and you need to use Chinese suppliers. And that what that does is, for example, when Tesla build factories in China, they need to source some of their components from locally produced Chinese factories. That kind of upgrade a whole Chinese supply chain. The whole Chinese supply chain grow up around Tesla, and later those same suppliers that supply Chinese supply chain, they could supply the Chinese domestic EV makers like BYD, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is how China kind of climbing the tech tree. This is what U.S. called the technology theft. No, it's not theft. It's pretty open.
It's
China
determined.
says if you want to do business in China, if you want to do business in China, you have to do technology transfer. But this is how a truly independent country assert its sovereignty. It's setting the terms of how you can behave in this country.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in a lot of other countries, and because in a lot of times they cannot dictate terms to the multinationals, because then the U.S. State Department is going to come down on your ass. And
it's very interesting. That's something. Well, I don't know about Davidson. That's something that I have never heard before. Actually, even. I'll say, for example, Alexander McCurry, who is from the Duran, which I follow as well. Well, he's a lawyer, and sometimes he mentions the fact that China steals technology. But like a reason for growing is that. So one thing that what comes to my mind right now is that, the Western, the Anglo-American culture about the copyright laws, which is an American thing, is an inside American thing, and they just they force the world to comply with copyright laws. This law thinking makes them think that's stealing. because they cannot do it because we have the copyright for this, and hence they should not produce it.
A lot of what Americans are complaining about China is what the British used to complain about American manufacturers in the late 19th century. And you know, this is just, I'm sure there's industrial espionage. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's industrial espionage going on. But the major bulk of technology transfer actually happened elsewhere. You know, if you go to U.S. universities, you will see a lot of the top students are Chinese. If you go to the U.S. research institutions, you go into the labs, a lot of the people doing research, a lot of the are Chinese grad students who are working, who are powering these U.S. research institutions. Now, they came to United States because in the 80s and 90s, China was a very poor country, and China couldn't offer like a lot of opportunity for a lot of very talented people. So there was a brain drain from China to the West, particularly to the United States. But around when China economy started taking off, you know, my dad came to study in the United States in 1985. And a lot of his friends, you know, when they graduated, they didn't go back to China. They took a job, a corporate job in U.S. and you know, most of them got green card and later citizenship in U.S. and work in U.S. companies. But after working in U.S. for about 20 years, around I think early 2000, a lot of my dad's classmates went back to China because that's when they realized, you know, after working in U.S. corporate world for 10, 20 years, they hit a glass ceiling for the Chinese immigrants. They don't rise to the upper management level. You know, there's a cap, but if they go back to China, the sky is the limit. They can be CEOs, they can be founders of companies. So a lot of the ambitious ones went back to China. That's where the greatest amount of technology transfer happened, because all these people who are educated in the West, in US top elite universities, they work for 10, 20 years in the corporate world, gather all that experience and knowledge, and they're taking that back to China. And why? It's because China offered them better opportunities. Of course. Like they used to say, U.S. is like the land, the American dream, right? Yeah, American dream, the land of opportunity. But for the Chinese people right now, China is the land of opportunity. That's why even the people who made it to the United States are moving back to China. And of course, right now with the U.S. Government prosecution of Chinese scientists and researchers, that just put additional pressure for them to move back to China. And this is this reverse brain drain is what powering China ahead. And this is what a lot of the Americans don't understand, because they probably never took a peek inside of the university lab like I have, because my dad would work in a U.S. university. I go to his lab and I see, it's all Chinese people here. And that's when I realized, even back in 1990s, you know, who are actually doing all the work. and so it totally makes sense to me. It totally makes sense to me when all my... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, what I mean is what was you were describing happened with the Chinese and the Indians, in the Indian people, the people from India, right? They were crowning the American universities and the European universities, and now they are the new Silicon Valleys, right? The India and China is booming in technology now. What you are describing with Chinese people in the United States happened exactly the same way with the people from India, and they are booming. If it was only in China, we could discuss if it's right or not, if maybe it's your perception, but it happened exactly the same way with with India. So Americans are doing something wrong on this one.
And it's not really a zero-sum competition because this cross-pollination means talents are continue to come to US, but some of them are flowing back to China. So it's really win-win for both sides because US is gaining all these talents it otherwise wouldn't have. But right now, the US politicians, because they have this Western supremacist mindset, they don't understand that. So they're like, okay, the only thing we have is we have to stop China's progress in order for US to stay number one, right? Yeah. He doesn't understand like this collaboration make everybody go up. That's not their mindset. Their mindset is zero sum. You know, you lose, I win.
For example, the 5G contract that they should develop together with the United States, and the United States, no, we can take care of it ourselves. Again, coming back to Huawei, that's more or less the point where they realize, oh shit, we didn't get there, but they're there. And the result is what you get is that China going to 6G and 7G already. And here in Europe, for example, 5G and internet, it's getting behind. You know, it's getting behind. Even Russia have better internal internet, I would say, infrastructure for the internet. Even Russia have better infrastructure than Europe. Even Russia, like if it was a bad thing. But, you know, the European mindset of, the poor country next to us, Russia, has better infrastructure. You know, the poor China has better infrastructure, better technology, and you know, it's just
more
launching
money.
its own. It just put up its own space station. Its own. I mean, you have one that is everybody's, and China has its own. So, you know, Indians putting their feet on the moon. We were just saying yesterday.
And the British didn't.
And the British have not put nothing at the moon. Maybe I don't know.
That's crazy.
Nothing.
But the impression I have is the West doesn't want to see Eastern names in the history books.
Yeah.
They don't want to see it. They don't want to see Eastern names in the science books. The discovering, leading the humanity to progress. They want to see Western names there. It is crazy. It is crazy. It was supposed to die in World War II.
Because the West has dominated the world for the last 500 years, and they feel like you should continue. That's the way it should be. But they don't realize maybe that 500 year is a blip. It's a glitch. And that's
an exception. It's exception.
Yeah, it's exception. They're trying to defend that. They're trying to defend. Like they feel like in order for them to remain on the top, everybody have to be kept down. No. They don't have that win-win mindset. It's always zero sum. Like in order for me to win, you have to lose, which is kind of mind-boggling because from China's side, China is not saying we're trying to replace United States. We're trying to be a number one. No, China is just let's all do business and let's all make money. I mean, like that's very reasonable approach, I would say.
No, that's crazy talk.
Jeez, that's interesting.
It's very interesting. We have about 20 minutes. I mean, we're almost going to 2 hours. There's some perceptions that I would like to ask, for example, about the Chinese society now. As I said, we are planning to go on a vacation on China this year, and we are looking around in YouTube videos to see what we are going to check. And every time, and it's not something that, it's just travel YouTubers, not social analysts, nothing like that, just travel. What I observe, it's in the Chinese society, it's an extremely vibrant society at the moment. And, when I see videos from Beijing or from Shanghai, I see 21st century. You know, I see Japan, for example, Tokyo was considered the most advanced or most futuristic city some years ago, and yeah, it's still very bright, a lot of lights, you know, like New York, but it's very static. And when I see China, it's everything's moving, and as I say, it looks back to it looks like Back to the Future's movies, you know,
Oh, yes.
coming to reality.
I highly recommend a visit to my hometown, Chongqing.
Chongqing.
It's Chongqing. Yeah, it's one of the cities that have like people say it's very cyberpunk. It's have a
cool.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. It has a monorail and all the monorail that goes through buildings. It has a train that goes through the building.
Yes.
Yeah, and definitely takes a high-speed train. It's so convenient; you can go anywhere. I highly recommend visit to China for anybody, for your listeners, for your audience. I mean, seeing is believing. You know, like you can read about it. You know, most of the time you read in the Western news is bullshit anyway. To see it for yourself is quite a different experience. Yeah.
True enough.
Yeah. But how do you see the Chinese society? How's the Chinese looking at themselves? I'm asking this because I also have a Chinese friend, and I had this talk with her some months ago, and I was very, very impressed by the answer she gave me. So how do you think the Chinese people are seeing themselves as society, as people, as a nation, as a civilization?
So first of all, I don't claim to speak for all Chinese people, because there are 1.4 billion Chinese. There's probably 1.4 billion different opinions out there. But from what I gather, my sense is that most Chinese people, especially the young people, they're very hopeful for the future. I mean, survey after survey, you can look at survey after surveys. The Chinese people remain one of the most optimistic society in the world right now about their future, and they see their civilization is being re-energized, it's been revitalized. They talk about the great revival of Chinese civilization that's happening right now. There's a renaissance going on in China, and that is not just bringing back the past, but it's also blazing a path to the future. As you're talking about, like you see the 21st century in the Chinese cityscape. I mean, that's what's happening right now. China is now like what they used to talk about, the American dream. Now that it is in China. China is now the land of opportunity. So that's my take.
Could you tell us something? Share your feeling too about how China, how the nation and the people look to BRICS, look to Brazil, look to their new allies, their new interaction with the world. What China expect from this relation? And
well, I think most Chinese people understand that BRICS are the friendly countries, as opposed to say the U.S. government, and these and they also understand this is like the rise of the new multipolar world. This is because Chinese people, like many people around the world, they don't want to see the hyperpower, the U.S. hyperpower, the unlimited U.S. hegemony around the world. They want to see that challenge.
Power.
And they want, yeah, the full spectrum dominance. No, like Chinese people want to see the rise of the multipolar world, and which means sovereignty. Everybody has sovereignty, and everybody minding their own business, and you don't have like a freaking global hegemon dictating everybody on what to do, and the BRICS is a vehicle, is a possible vision for the future, because this is I would say it's an embryo for the new multipolar world.
Yeah, that's about what we are all expecting towards this. This is a very interesting view. I mean, there's always a fear, and I should openly talk about this. There's always a fear that, China will do the same thing as the United States and become, but this sounds to me just like the mindset, the projection of the Western mindset
Yes.
in our own mindset.
Oh yes, it is very clear. It becomes very clear when we hear the Africans.
Yeah.
If you go there and talk with the Africans, they will tell you, the United States come here with a proposal. If you deny it, they bring the army. Chinese come here with a proposal. You deny them, they come with another proposal. So it is very, very different. I don't think I don't know what the Americans think about it, but in my opinion, it is a game changing.
Wunderwaffe.
Yeah, I mean, most of the Chinese people, they're not looking to be the next Americans. They just want to have better lives in China. They want to have better lives and better development in China for their own children.
Sure.
And their most primary concern is still internal development in China, because there's still a lot of room for growth. Right. I mean, China is not. You brought up Japan, because one reason Japan may seem more static is because Japan is already a developed society. It has already reached the developed world status. But China, it's not at the same developmental stage yet. The urbanization rate in China is only like 65%. So there's still a lot of room for growth in China. And this is why there's a lot of silly talks about how China is going to become like just become like Japan. You will stagnate, and that's nonsense, because Japan, or its GDP per capita, whatever, it's already caught up with the West. China still have room to grow, because it's not China does not average Chinese people are not living the kind of the consumption level that Americans are doing. So I mean, like, I don't even know if they want to live at that level, but there's still a lot, even to reach the level of consumption of level, say, Koreans. China still have room to grow. So there's a lot more potential. And
yeah. Now, when you see today, a lot of people, they've mentioned, for example, India has a great economic booming at the moment, and at that point, you pointed a very interesting point, that Japan has reached maybe his maximum. I mean, you can always grow, but at some point your growth is going to be very small and very slowly, because you reach a point that, well, there's not too much room to grow from here on.
You're demonstrating a result.
Yeah, and I mean, India at its part has a hell lot of room, and China, even having a lot of room, has much less than India at this point, because China had developed in the last. It's amazing. The other day I shared a map that someone shared in Twitter, well, X, whatever. That was the 2008 train. Maybe it was you. 2008 train. Train lines, and 2024. And
that's crazy. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it was a small thing like this, and then it's the entire country. And just this week, there came out a news in Brazil that Brazil is finally embracing the railroad development. And they say, until 2034, we are going to double our cover. The coverage is almost none. If in 10 years we double this, I mean, it's 2 times 0 is 0. So
we should think about the tenfold what we have.
We should be thinking about tenfold, about the 20-fold. We should be thinking, 20 years we're gonna have something like China at least.
Oh yeah.
Latin America. Here in Indonesia, here in Indonesia, we just had the first high-speed rail line in Southeast Asia, going 350 kilometer per hour.
Wow.
China helped to build that, so it could happen for Brazil. Could happen for Brazil.
Oh, I hope so.
If our government learns the lesson. I just remember something. Since you're in Indonesia, just recently I saw some very weird movements in West Papua. We actually made a small program about this. It really sounds like a lot of U.S. meddling in Indonesia. Do you see do you see it at all? And how do you see this in Indonesia, in the government of Indonesia, maybe?
So Western Papua is a very complex issue. It's basically a legacy of colonialism, right? Papua, the whole Papua island was taken over by the different European powers. The western half was by the Dutch, and the eastern half was first by Germany, and then after World War One, it was the Japanese and the British, and then later after World War II, it was basically it became independent, but it was still under influence by Australia. But the island of Papua has a lot of mining interest, right? And there's a lot of gold and copper and there's around Papua there's also oil and gas field. So when you have those things, there's a lot of Western and multinationals are involved in mining in the area. So there is some, I'm sure there's some local discontent in Papua itself regarding to maybe they felt it's been neglected by the central government in Jakarta, in Indonesia. And they're not happy that even with all the rich resources of Papua, the areas remain underdeveloped. But it's hard to say that it's very murky, right? Because there's a lot of interests are involved with all these multinational companies with big stakes in Western Papua. I'm just gonna. This is just my guess. This is my guess, right? Papua could be like a stick that U.S. can potentially use to keep the Indonesian government in line, but it's useful. Because it is there's some local discontent there on Papua,
okay.
and that's always useful if U.S. want to use that as kind of either bargaining chip or like a leverage over the Indonesian government, because and Australia do have a lot of influence in Papua. Australia is like U.S. deputy basically in the Southern Pacific. So
Davidson, you want to go with any question? So we can maybe start toward the end of our chat. You're probably hungry. I'm getting hungry myself as well.
Me too. I still didn't have breakfast. It's 9. It's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Lunch, and you didn't have dinner.
I'm waiting for dinner. So let's go. Let's wrap it up.
Let's. You go, Davidson. You have one last thing to ask.
No, I was well covered here. I am. It's fine to me. It was excellent. I want to thank you very much. It was a great sharing. A lot of very relevant information. It is amazing. We and Marcelo, we are really amazed at the quality of people we are being honored to receive here. You know, we never expected that. Honestly, we never expected that. We are really amazed, and thank you very much for your presence.
As usual.
Thank you, and invite me back anytime, because I love to talk.
Now I have your number.
Oh yeah.
I will.
Anytime.
You can be sure. I didn't get to half of what I have prepared for today, so there is a long way of room to talk about China, and I will be very happy if
When
we
it
can do
comes to
this.
China, I can. When it comes to China, I can talk your ears off. Don't worry. You know, like anytime you want to talk, just reach out to me. We'll set up another time. We'll go on. We'll make sure we had our food beforehand so we
No,
can keep
can
going.
just go.
But thank you very much for inviting me. Yeah.
Yeah, you have anything less you want to say? It's okay.
No, I mean, I'm very honored to be invited to talk with you and potentially reach new audience. In Latin America, in Brazil. And like I said, invite me back anytime.
Okay. All Carl Za's social networks are on the description. Mr. Za, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later after dinner.
Just a small one. Could you repeat the name of that book you mentioned and the U.S. professor that read it, that write it about the Chinese collapse and stuff?
There's a book. It's called The Great Divergence. It's by the American professor Kenneth Pomeran. Maybe I should just send you over like a text or something. It might be easier.
That would be great. That would be great. I would like it very much. Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Perfect. All right. So again, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll have you soon again with us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll look forward to it.
Goodbye. Ciao, ciao, Mr. Za.
Bye. Signing off.
Bye bye.
Good night.